Hello everyone, my name is Glenn and I'm a journalism and PR major in Curtin. Today I'll be talking about anime in the global media sphere to explain and illustrate the relationship of Asian and Western media. As we go on, I'll be talking about number 1, what is anime? Number 2, looking into Wandering Witch as an example. Number 3, anime in globalization. Number 4, anime in constructing identity. And number 5, cosmopolitanism in anime. So, what is anime? Anime is a term for a style of Japanese cartoon animation which are usually inspired from a manga or comic books. It is a genre of media that is watched by a wide range of ages, from children, teenagers to young adults. Anime has long broken the standard that animation should feature simple and light-hearted stories. Anime came about in the early 1900s, with some of the first films being able to be traced back to 1906. The Japanese have been known for their visual style even before anime came about, and the rich tradition of Japanese culture is always what is featured. Though it is argued that European and American animation has influenced anime in some forms, or even been a contributing factor to the creation of anime, it is difficult to trace back its origins. What makes anime different from European and American animation is that unlike the early day Disney animations, anime has grown a lot and now dabbles in deep and sophisticated storylines. Unafraid to touch on sensitive topics such as abandonment, traumas, and even suicide, which has made anime a different breed of animation. But not all anime tells a gloomy story. Some tell the story of romance, independence, and bravery, which are the qualities that are usually the result of going through tough times. Aside from an interesting storyline that gives character to anime has its own visual style as well. Exaggerated emotions expressed to facial features that are disproportionate is one of the typical visual styles that anime carries. Although there are other anime that do not follow this rule. Other than that, animes usually have colorful hair and very bright eyes. Anime also features melodramatic expressions such as sparkling eyes, action lines, and even text box appearing out of thin air in the anime. The anime that I chose today is Wandering Witch: The Journey of Elena, directed by the animator and storyteller Toshiyuki Kabuko. The anime that I have chosen today is Wandering Witch: The Journey of Elena, directed by the animator and storyteller Toshiyuki Kubuka. The film features the main character Elena, who is a witch on a journey to travel around the world on her magic flying broomstick. This anime is a manga adaptation of the same name. This series is co-produced by Japanese anime studio C2C and Funimation, an American company that dubs the anime for the American audience. As the story goes, Elena travels around the world and sees the world through her eyes, and we get to see how the animators take inspiration from not only Japanese culture, but cultures from around the world. Why I chose Wandering Witch: The Journey of Elena is due to the fact that despite it being Japanese animation, it takes references from European culture, namely the fashion of the characters and the designs of buildings in the world. I felt that this is a good example to illustrate anime and globalization. With the anime being and gaining worldwide audience, it seemed to be intentional that the animators had set the location of the anime in the world to be Europe. As Cooper Chan in 2012 suggested that audiences are able to better take in content or media that seems to have a form of similarity or resemblance to their own, I felt that this was an intentional choice by the storytellers. The lack of cultural order in the whole story of the anime also makes anime easy to consume, as it does not have a specific agenda but is merely there to tell the story of the characters in the world. The role of animation in dubbing and subtitling the anime further makes the anime easily consumable by audiences who do not understand Japanese, allowing the anime to reach out further in influence. One of the examples is the build and stature of the characters seem to be a mix and match between slender and more petite Japanese compared to a big built European stature. Other than that, although not many, the food that was shown in the anime is also predominantly European style, with dishes such as gravy meatballs, mashed potatoes, and stew, which are usually eaten with some red wine. As I was watching the anime, I was reminded of another anime that was about a young witch traveling with a magic broomstick, and that was Kiki's Delivery Service by director Hayao Miyazaki. One striking similarity that I noticed between the two anime was that they both took place in what seems to be European-type cities. The influence of Western architecture and culture in the anime is an example that anime reflects the forces of globalization. Anime has been made to be an easily digestible form of media. The simpleness of understanding the goals and emotions of the character in the anime world has made it easy for audience to relate to their favorite characters. This in result has made people want to be like their favorite characters, and it can be seen in the community of cosplayers. Cosplaying can be seen as a culture of its own, with unspoken rules on things that can and cannot be done. An example, what a character strictly can and cannot say when cosplaying a certain character. With this, it can be said that anime has affected the lives of many, particularly teenagers. Teenagers look up to their idols as a standard, and though this can bring positive influence, it can also bring negative influence, as teenagers are some people who are still learning and discovering about their own identity. The multicultural influence of anime is an example of cosmopolitanism in anime. Anime allows its audience to see and experience the life of others with different cultures and understand more of themselves in the global context. In anime Wandering Witch, the main character explores many different cities and towns as she is on an adventure, and it shows many different ways people live their life. This illustrates how cultures can be different, and there is not one right way to live. Activities such as cosplaying becomes an extension of this. Being able to dress up and go to a cosplay in a convention allows people to meet people they've never would have met before, thus giving them a positive experience which would further reinforce the learning and understanding of different cultures. In conclusion, the impact that anime has on Asian media is that it opens the door for the global audience to understand more of Asian cultures. By reaching out with stories that are familiar not only to Asian cultures and co-producing the anime with Western companies, it allows for an easy consumption of the media while subtly introducing the culture of Asians, particularly Japanese culture, to the rest of the world. The worldwide fan base of anime invites a global connection to its audience and encourages people of all sorts of identities and cultures to come together in unity for a similar passion. I believe anime definitely has a place as one of the representation of Asian media in transition, as it is and has been proven to create a global connection. That is all for me. Thank you for listening.